Hello, Money Queens and listeners. Welcome to Women Behind the Millions. Let's meet the women behind the millionaires, the women supporting, guiding, celebrating women with their wealth. You will hear from women millionaires, how they got there, what they wish they had known, what got them to be a millionaire, the emotional side, the spiritual side, the practical side of wealth. You'll also get to meet the women behind the scenes helping make it happen. Let's dive into Women Behind the Millions. I am Jessica Weaver, your host, best-selling author of 3 books, wealth advisor, and founder of the Women's Wealth Boutique. Let's start meeting the women. Hello, Money Queens. Welcome back to Women Behind the Millions. I have a QR code up here. You can scan it. Join our newsletter where we give you market updates. Also, when our next show is coming, who that guest is going to be, and all news related to the Wealth Boutique and Pink Fix Productions. Tonight is about trust. How do you build trust with a stranger on a phone call? Growing up in the financial industry, I remember my father talking about cold calling, like trying to get a hold of any stranger that is interested enough to talk to you more than 30 seconds, to build rapport with them, build and gain that trust, and then eventually convert them into becoming a client or a raving fan of you. Well, tonight's guest was able to do just this. I also find it so interesting as we are interviewing people from our newest book, She Nailed It, at Pink Fix Productions, and all of the books that we have produced here. I learned so much about these women through their chapters and the stories that they share. And yet I would have no idea that they were dealing with all of this in their day-to-day life. I have no idea what they've been through, the struggles, the valleys, and then into the victories, as we say it. She nailed it. Because they always put up that very professional, polished front. They push through it. They grind it out. They're not waiting around for somebody to come and save them. They step up each and every time. And it just gives you such a perspective when you see somebody who is succeeding and thriving, not knowing the back work that went into it, and that there were valleys, there were times of pain and struggle. Well, tonight's guest, we're going to get into it with her. We have with us Megan De Tore McDermott. She was a single mom at age 20 who, despite all the odds, created a very successful mortgage business. From humble, lonely beginnings that shaped her strength and faith and purpose, accept what she cannot change, and to find happiness despite all of the hardship. So let's bring to stage. Hello, Megan. How are you tonight?
I am great, Jessica. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I loved your chapter. And She Nailed It. What was it like getting your story out there into this book?
I mean, really, it's super exciting and really humbling and a little bit scary, honestly, because, it's being super vulnerable and sharing, the most personal things in your life. And, that only some people, close people that know you super well would know. So, putting pen to paper and kind of digging deep and sharing those things publicly is something I've always felt that I should be doing because I think it is a good story. Everyone has a story, but I think mine is really one of perseverance and just believing in yourself. So, it's a lot of emotions, but love it.
Yes. And what drew you to being a part of the book and the mission behind it?
Honestly, I believe that this is something, again, if you read my chapter, you'll kind of understand my underlying faith that I do have with God and how I truly believe that relationship is what has ultimately steered me and guided me and protected me throughout my entire life. And because of that, and because of, the struggles and, being a provider of my family and all the pressure and stress that has brought me, just feeling like my story is worthy. And I do feel that, someone could read it and be like, you know what? I can do this too. I feel like it's just giving people the power, the wisdom to have the belief in themselves. And so this is something I always felt that I should be doing. And then when the opportunity presented itself, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do.
This is God saying yes.
I think here it is. And I've learned that in life, like sometimes the things that we push so hard for and fight for um, might not necessarily be the right things for you. It's what you think is the right things for you. But then ultimately, I believe that our journey has a path that maybe we are just not certain of. And I feel like when this presented itself to me, I really did believe that God was giving me a gift in something that I felt should happen. So it's pretty cool.
Beautiful. I love hearing these stories. And there is such an theme of faith, underlying theme throughout the book of, trusting where God is placing you and where you're being led. You talk in your chapter about the first mortgage you ever sold. Can you take us back to that moment? What was it like going into it, the feeling afterward?
Yeah. So, when I got in the mortgage business, I really stumbled into it. It's not something, no one ever says, I want to become a mortgage lender. Nobody ever said that, ever. So it's not something you're going to school for. The majority of the people who I know in this industry really just fell into it, or they had like a father or mother that was in the business.
Yes.
It's not something anyone strives for ultimately. But when it did present itself to me, I felt again, like, wow, this is scary. I don't even know what this looks like, but I am going to take the risk because I feel like the gain of what could be is something that I'm willing to roll the dice on. And I believe in myself. And so when I got in the business, as you'll read in my chapter, I was taught the business by someone who shouldn't be in the business.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, just a super shady guy. Like, and unfortunately, my business sometimes has a bad rap because of certain individuals that kind of has set the theme of being a little shady and not being trustworthy, and being told one thing and then another thing happening. And I saw all these, what I just felt were like just yucky ways of doing business, and I was new, so I couldn't say, "What are you doing?" I just kind of sat back and watched, observed. And when I got the opportunity to say, I'm going to start selling mortgages myself, I knew that I had to do it completely differently. It was my soul, like it was just whatever he was doing taught me the way not to do it. And I'm grateful for that experience because it really is like an eye opener. But yeah, when I sold my first mortgage, I was in my mom's closet, which is really weird and funny. And it's the truth. I wasn't in an office. I wasn't in my car. I got a call back from cold calling, and I was like, I think it was like 6 or 7 at night. I was home with my daughter, and I was like, I got to take this. Like, I cannot let this go to voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran into what I thought was going to be the quietest, safest place.
Yes, I be quiet.
Get out of my way. I'm running up the stairs. I'm hiding, and I sold my first mortgage. I remember it was a gentleman who had a ton of debt, and he needed to consolidate it at the time. And I think that the loan that I was offering him was probably going to like free up his cash flow by like $1,500 a month. Yeah, like it was like a life changing, and this person didn't have great credit, and all the things kind of stacked against him. And so we figured it out, and it was so satisfying and gratifying. And that just gave me the know-how, like, wait, I just did this once. I can do this again. I got one person to want to call me back, have this conversation, trust me. I obviously did all the things, the right things. And so I'm going to replicate this over and over and get better and better at it.
And get better and better. Yeah, we had Teresa Todd, who was also part of the book. She nailed it. And she, not cold call, knocked on doors. And it was like 57 doors until somebody would talk to her. And she made a deal. Do you know how many calls? Do you have an idea, Megan? How many cold calls you made?
I mean, throughout my career, just tons. I mean, I would buy lists. I would buy leads. And again, when you buy... And this was like in the early 2000s when like the internet wasn't what the internet is now. Mm-hmm. It was, again, kind of archaic, but like I would buy leads and I would be up against like whoever was calling because they were kind of like, the leads were leads.
No pressure.
No pressure. But yeah, I tons, just tons. And it was, thankfully my business has evolved to never have to do that again. Thank you, Jesus.
That was a drug place.
But I put the work in. And honestly, those are all what I believe are the humbling beginnings of grinding and really just being determined. Like, I had no option to fail. I was a single mom and it was all on my shoulders. And, I was waitressing at the time. I had a college degree. I was nannying, but none of those things are really going to ever get you to that place of financial freedom. They might be enough to pay your bills, short term, but you're never going to have the things that you feel like your heart desires, deserves, and wants. So I knew I had to put in really I had to do uncomfortable things that I didn't know what the results were going to be, but I believed that I could do it.
Yeah, you pushed through, and that little bit of practice with Teresa said the same thing, right? You tweaked it every time and you got better and better and better.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick look at the book She Nailed It. In life, we all face valleys, moments of pain, challenge, and struggle, but it's what we do in those moments that defines us. She Nailed It, inspiring stories of going from valley to victory, brings together powerful women who turned adversity into strength and strength into purpose. Led by Danette Galvis, with chapters from inspiring voices including Terry DeGrande, Erica Butler, Corey Beth Lepowski, Teresa Todd, Catherine Sorensen, Katika Estevez, Christina Good, Denise Sandkamp, Megan McDermott, Kristen Williams, and Jessica Weaver. These stories will inspire you to believe in your own comeback, reminding us all that victory is always possible. She Nailed It, inspiring stories of going from valley to victory. Available now on Amazon. One book, countless stories of hope. Get your copy today. We're back with Megan talking about the mortgage world's cold calling and building trust really quickly. Working on your skill set, tweaking everything that you're saying to the people to build that rapport and trust along the way. Another big piece of your chapter, Megan, was being a single mom. And I thought it was a very powerful quote, because when you're a single mom, people put you in a box. They don't expect much from you.
Yeah.
What did that feel like? Take us back to that moment, and how do you overcome that? Because again, you're in mortgage. You need to be confident. You need to come, strong, knowing your stuff. I'm sure imposter syndrome set in. A lot of opportunities didn't come your way because they didn't expect much from you.
Yeah. I will say that, being young, I was 24 when I got in the business, being a single mom. And when I say single mom, I mean that in the biggest form. My daughter's father was not in her life physically or financially. So like that, I don't want to say burden, but that responsibility and pressure was solely on my shoulders. And because I was a woman, I was young, I was a single mom, and I was, at the time I was, super blonde and all the things. Not that I'm not now, but I was a younger, more, I want to say a more immature version of myself. I was young. I was still in my early 20s. And I knew I was capable. My close people in my life knew I was capable, but the general public absolutely did not know I was capable, or didn't want to believe it, or didn't care. So I think that's why cold calling became my way for so long, because I'm not going to say I was hiding behind the phone, but I was best used with just my voice at the time, because people didn't necessarily take me seriously. Men absolutely did not take me seriously at the early days. It was kind of yucky. Like, it was one of those things where it was kind of grimy. And I just was like, I'm in a safer place to do this job completely alone. Meaning, like, I'm not going to be in an office around a ton of people. I'm not going to be going on appointments or meetings, trying to network really at the time, because I knew that the judgment was coming like immediately. And at that point, I didn't have the strength, or I didn't have the resume at that point to really say, I'm proving you otherwise. And, as a woman who, gets in a business, they get mature, they know their worth, they know their ability and their capability. I feel like that with time is what allowed me to take my career to the completely different direction. But it really was. And it could have been partially just my insecurities of thinking I was going to be judged. But I would say there was quite a few moments where I was like, I'm better on the phone than having to try to sell this product to someone in person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk to me about coping mechanisms. And this is something that comes up when you're growing up. You talk a lot about coping mechanisms in the chapter. Do you feel like they're still there in your life? Do they help you? Do they deter you? Do you overcome them at some point?
I mean, at this point, I'm 47 years old now. And I will say, I know it's kind of cliche. And as women, I've heard this before I turned 40. And I didn't know it or believe it until I did turn 40 or around there that time. Something happens where a certain type of woman can approach 40 and literally just own it. And we now have the experience behind us, the lessons behind us. And it gave me just this superpower that I think was there all along. But it just, something inside me was like, you know what? Time is of the essence in life right now. Like anything can happen in life. So I'm going to seize every opportunity because I'm never going to get this day back. And so I think that's kind of over the last, 7-ish years, especially when I was getting divorced, kind of just pushed me through that, coping mechanisms are really just getting through the day ultimately. But knowing that I have the history of surviving and feeling like I was protected by the Lord over and over and over, no matter what, really just gave me this solid foundation that I was safe to do what I needed to do for my family.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And I've heard that you joined the club of giving 0 Fs when you hit a certain age.
Yeah. I was like,
proud member.
Listen, not that I'm saying and this might sound funny, but at the time, and I do try to throw humor in because without it, I don't know how we're getting through life. But at 40, I said, if I don't shift gears and literally put a fire under myself to figure this out, to get to the next level, I'm going to be 50 and wish that I did this at 40. And I'm like, I got a solid decade. I have a decade to figure this out. And that, I don't want to say I almost put myself in like a fear monger, but I'm like, oh my God, I will be 50 in 10 years. And not that there's anything wrong with it, but again, as a woman in business and everything I experienced, I felt like my 40s to 50s was going to be my sweet spot where I'm still going to be young and relatable and cool enough for younger people to want to do business with me. And I'm going to be old enough for people who are older than me to want to do business with me because I'm established and I have a track record. So I feel like this timeline is where the magic potentially happened for me because I knew that I was going to be relatable to the masses at that point.
Yeah. Great perspective. I can relate to that too. I feel like in finance, when you're young, there's ageism happening. You don't have the experience. You might not even have your own house, but you're coaching people, advising people, you don't have to buy a house.
Correct.
For it too. So in my mind was always kind of similar to you, like that 35 is that sweet spot where you're old enough, you have the track record, you've been around, you're going to stay here.
Yeah. I feel like that point you've either done it or you haven't, and you're going to or you're not. And I'm not saying later in life people can't like shift and do amazing things. Yes, absolutely. But I can just say for myself personally that I knew that at 40, it was like, do it or don't. And I was like, I'm doing it. So
we're doing it. How about, were there any breaking points along this way that you were like, I don't know if I'm going to make it back from this?
Honestly, no. I know that sounds strange, but you'll in my book, you'll see that my daughter's biological father ended up dying in a motorcycle accident. And for me, that was just like earth shattering. Even though he wasn't in her life, it was like the thought of her never getting it was like so overwhelming for me. Oh my God, I get emotional every time I talk about it. So I was like, I just knew that this is my destiny. Like I have to do this because I knew I was getting divorced at the time that I passed away. It was like this weird, perfect storm of trauma and sadness and pivoting. And it was like, I knew that I had to make a change, But again, you've probably heard this time and time again. So many women want to change their lives. Like they want to, they just don't know how to. And it is always financial. It's always financial or circumstantial because of kids, right? It's either money or the kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For me, it was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it and figure it out. And so I really never questioned myself. I just knew I had to get out of a marriage and I had to be able to financially do it. And I knew I could do it because I've done it before, but I'm like, I gotta take this to the next level. And I'm not saying I don't doubt myself. I mean, you'll hear in my chapter, like I'm all the things. I mean, I just get emotional now. I'm very critical of myself. I worry. I'm all the things. And then I just kind of reel myself back in to realize, wait, you're going to be fine. Like it's going to be fine. And it is. So
yeah. You're going to be fine. Yes. We're going to take a quick break. Let's post the link here. Here's a QR code. You can comment questions for Megan. Comment what were your breaking points? What's your real estate goal? Comment here. She will comment back, answer your questions, and you get to break ER. You get a chance to win one of our Pink Fix merch. Let's take a look. Welcome to the Pink Fix Shop, where rebels, trailblazers, and legacy builders find their voice in every sip, stitch, and page. From best-selling teas to manifesting mugs, every item is designed to spark conversation and celebrate your story. Start building your legacy in style, only at pinkfixproductions.com. And we are back. You can post your comments, questions for Megan with this QR code onto our YouTube version of streaming this show. We are back. I want to get into, we have your whole thing about be happy with your mortgage. Investing $110 million in mortgage volume in 2 years. We talked about the pain. We talked about the struggles. Let's talk about the good things now, Megan.
Yeah.
What was it like hitting $110 million in mortgage volume? That is a lot.
It's a lot. And so I did that in 2020, and then I did it again the next year in 2022. So in 2 years in a row, I did that. And I've always been a pretty good producer. And like in the mortgage world, you're definitely gauged by your volume, which is the total loan amounts that have added into one. So that's how we're kind of tracked on our production. And, I always did well. I was, even a $20 million producer is a great producer. Like they know what they're doing. They have the track record. And I definitely was anywhere from like 20 to 40 million. And then in that year that I knew that I had to pick it up a notch, I ended up doing 112 million. And then I did 110 million. And then the market took a nosedive. And, again, market conditions definitely influence all of it. So, we have to always take that into consideration, that there's other factors besides your ability to sell mortgages in those numbers. But yeah, it's amazing. It's a huge milestone. It's most people in my business will never, ever get there. And super proud of myself. And I feel like I do deserve it because I really do put my clients' needs first. I'm not a salesperson. I say that all the time. Do I know how to structure and quote unquote sell a mortgage to somebody? Absolutely. But it's not a sell. It's really like a presentation of what someone is able to do, why it could be a good fit, and presenting an option. And it's pretty black and white for me. Either someone feels like it's a good fit. If it's not a good fit, I'm not even going to present it. And so just that constant, trust, the trust that I built time after time after time has then grown my business through, referrals. That's ultimately, at the end of the day, how anyone in any business is really going to thrive, is just through word of mouth. And that's ultimately what just authentically happened.
Oh, that's fantastic. What would you say are those driving ethics, morals behind your work and be happy with your mortgage?
Yeah, be happy with your mortgage is something like when I created it, I just knew I wanted some type of tagline trademarked that emulated like what I wanted an experience to be like for a consumer.
Yes.
And it's not the typical like lowest rates, best customer service, it's not the typical. And that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be more personal. And I just felt like, and I had so many people tell me they thought that was the stupidest tagline ever. And I was like, yeah, I don't know.
You're onto something.
Right? I think it's actually pretty awesome. And yes, it isn't what anyone's used to hearing or seeing, but I feel like it's a thing and I'm going with it. And it has turned into a thing. And it's people will be like, oh, you're the be happy with your mortgage girl. And I'm like, yeah. I just, I feel like really, I think this is just human nature. If you can really understand where you came from and not harbor like anger and resentment from it and really just because everyone has anger and resentment over something in life. Like we're humans. Like there's things that happen. It's relationships. And with relationships, things can get sticky at times. But I just realized a long time ago that it was like, I'm just going to keep my head up. And I say this all the time. I can go to sleep worried and upset. And then I'll wake up and I'll be like, you know what? I just got to do this over again. This is another chance. I'm going to figure it out. And I think it's just the underlying faith. I swear. And I say it in the book, but like I really just do. I know God's got my back. So I've just leaned on it.
Amen. I love that. You really are adding hospitality back into what typically was just kind of that sales model.
Very transactional.
Yes, the whole experience from start to finish, instead of it feeling like grunt work and time pressure, all the paperwork, whatnot. What is that experience that we can have that they feel strong and secure going into this biggest financial transaction of their life, probably?
100%. And it's not just the first time home buyer. It's people who have owned multiple homes can still feel this uncertainty, as they should. Because when you're moving or buying a home, there's so many moving parts. Like all the pieces have to line up. And, as the mortgage lender, I can only control this portion of it. The real estate agent can control this portion of it. The attorneys can do, right? So I have just learned to master that at the beginning. If my clients absolutely have clear communication and they know the expectations, then they're going to feel good about it every time at the end. And I say this, things come up. I mean, things come up, but I'm a really good problem solver also. So I think that's just like that reassurance in the track record. Like I'm getting it done no matter what. Is why people would choose to work with me.
Amazing. Thank you, Megan. Such beautiful work that you're doing. We have one more question for you. Are you ready?
Yes.
What makes you a woman behind the millions?
What makes you a woman behind the millions?
I think I'm like every girl, ultimately. I think I'm the masses. People would look at me and I find this interesting. I think you said this earlier. Nobody really knows your story. Like we're all walking around, getting through the day, taking care of our children, doing our work, doing everything. And we're not walking around screaming out our story to people. Like no one cares unless they cared, right? And I felt like this opportunity for me was so big because I do feel like I'm just any girl. I am any girl that can do something great. And I do think I've done something great, but it's not something that anyone else couldn't do if they truly believed in themselves and took a risk. Because I think really it's all about taking a risk. No one got anywhere by doing nothing. I kind of love that line. You get nothing by doing nothing. So if you want something, get up and go do something. And so I think when you say, how do I become a woman of the millions? I just feel like I am like every other girl. And I feel like me being able to connect with people on a deeper level is probably my biggest superpower. I go see real quick with people if I can sense that someone wants to get into it. And I feel like those one-on-one conversations I have with other women is like part of my greatest gift, is that I feel like I can share my story, give inspiration, see the goodness in people, and really cheer on the girl. Because who doesn't need a cheerleader?
Exactly. Taking the time to invest in relationships.
Yes.
Is huge. So thank you, Megan, for being part of a contributing author of She Nailed It, for the work that you do, being a single mom, having the odds stacked against you and yet still achieving it.
Yes.
and doing the work. Thank you all so much for watching another episode of Women Behind the Millions. You can scan the QR code to get the information on the next episode. I know you do not want to miss one of our other amazing authors from She Nailed It. We'll see you all next Thursday on another episode. Good night, Money Queens.
Hey, Money Queens, looking to get your wealth to that next level, 7, 8, 9 figures? Follow us on Instagram at PinkFixMyMoney and at Women's Wealth Boutique for more millionaire money tips.